I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Maybe we can begin with a brief introduction to this incredible film that they may face, The Rising Sun. I guess for people who don't know anything about it, could give us like a bit of a set the scene and tell us a bit about your characters, Joe and Kate.
So it's a film adaptation of an Irish novel set in the west of Ireland in a small lakeside community over the course of a year. And I play Joe Rutledge, a writer who's home along with his partner, Kate, acts as a kind of a central hub, almost like a community centre, around which all of the other characters kind of congregate and gossip and chat and catch up and philosophize. Yeah, I mean, it's a very undramatic movie. It's more like a slice of life than a plot-driven film.
So I play Kate Rutledge, and Kate is an artist from Germany who lives with Joe there. And they live a very simple life with a lot of routine, I would say. So for Kate, it's the question if she wants to stay there, if she wants to leave the city life behind and all the if she really wants to cut all the strings that she still has attached to the city and to another life. So she's on her way to explore that while she's at the same time really settling into the community and into her work actually. Also, so she's photographing and she's working with different materials and art. So I think she would never consider herself an artist, but I would say she is one.
And unfortunately, I've not had the chance to read the novel, but I believe it's John McGann's final novel. But I did get a chance to speak to Pat Collins during the London Film Festival last year, and he was just sort of really speaking about, it took him quite a long time, he'd been ruminating about doing this adaptation for a while and sort of finally sort of wanted to take it on. And all the reviews have said how close it is, in terms of kind of really capturing the sensibility of the book. So were you already familiar with it? Did you go back and read it? Did you rely on the script? What was your kind of relationship to the book?
I didn't read the book before we were shooting. And for me, it's never really essential to read if there's an existing book to read that, because it's usually the information is all in the script. Yeah, so for me, it was really going with the script, which was really rich and it has a really strong atmosphere. I was totally drawn to it because it was so, in a very beautiful way, very unspectacular. I was not really used to that, but I used to love movies like that, where you I think we're so used to wait for that we're entertained or something, but there was something so magical about it that in the simplicity, it just stuck with me before I even said yes to it or know if it would be possible to do the film. But it really stayed with me, and it was just really magical in the small things and in the simple things. I don't know, Barry, tell me, is it like the original book?
It is and it isn't. I think you're right, Sarah, in that the reviews are correct in that it captures something of the sensibility of the book, which is actually the most difficult thing. It's much easier to just transcribe the action and film it as per described in the book. It's a much more difficult thing to try and capture the essence, but in a visual way. But with Pat's methods and ways, he had this script, obviously, which read really, really well, but it's still very much a work in progress, and there were constant tweaks on the day. And then by the time the edit came around, it was a completely different beast entirely, And we shot a lot of things in kind of experimentally, some of which didn't make the cut, others which he kind of discovered during the process that it was material he really liked and thought useful and strong, including Joe writing and reading his own writing back. That wasn't really in the original script, and he just liked how that was working and fitting in. So we shot a lot more of that kind of in an ad hoc fashion, which is really unusual for me making films, because generally TV and film, the scripts can be pretty locked in, and there's not much up for discussion when it comes to shooting them, given time constraints. But Pat is very much more fluid in his methods than most directors I've worked with. With McGahern stuff, I was very familiar with his oeuvre, but not that specific book. I owned it and knew all about it, but I hadn't read it. And like what Anna's just saying, I usually put the original source material to one side and concentrate on the script, because that's what you're working with. But Pat actually insisted on dipping back into the book for me, and to, approach him with any passages I thought useful during the shooting of it. So so I read the book a couple of times just before shooting it, and there were instances and just occurrences within the book that jumped out at me that Pat hadn't considered. But when I brought them to him, he was really open to kind of, to exploring those things, which was a brilliant to be included on that kind of level,
And do you think that's also maybe because he has a background in making documentaries, and there's almost sort of that realism that comes through in the way it's been shot? So I don't know, there's that background that kind of influenced that. And I was thinking as well, for you both, were you very familiar with this kind of rural way of life? Because the way, it almost plays out in real time in some of the scenes. Did it sort of take a lot to go and immerse yourself in a bit of that life, or become familiar with it in order to sort of play it so authentically?
I think usually whatever film you're making, there's always a certain magic maybe that you kind of thrown into the world of the script or the, what you're working on. And I mean, just to be there and be surrounded by this incredible nature and in these special places. And to me also all the other actors, they were so special, and everybody was so delighted to work on this movie. And it was so, it was kind of life imitating art imitating life, kind of. It was so the whole atmosphere was by itself kind of there. It sounds a bit weird, but this is the way I felt. It was, I mean, also for me, the whole making of the movie was a lot a way of, it was like a lesson in listening maybe. So it's really like the whole process for me was a lot about not really preparing a lot or doing research, but more to stay open and develop a new way of listening maybe, and to be open to what's in front of you. So this is also what I found very helpful regarding my character, because with her, I felt she's really, really connected to nature and to life itself in a way. She's not really, I mean, I see both characters, Joe and Kate, a lot like this. It's really a Zen way. Also the whole book, and also the film, it has a Zen way of looking at things. It's not really judgmental. It's as if everything that happens isn't judged in any way. It's just life unfolding in front of our eyes, but there's not really, nobody's telling you what to feel, what to think, there's a lot of room. So for me, it was really important to have that approach all the way through, just being there, being open, and doing hikes in nature. That was kind of my prep, I would say, and hanging with these lovely people and having some pints in the evening, so.
But again, it wasn't. My dad grew up with John McGahern and in that part of the world. So what happens in the movie was very close to childhood experiences and memories that I have. But being a child in that world, sitting with all these older, characterful faces, telling funny stories and having funny ways about them, to a kid from Dublin who would visit the countryside and experience these things, it was kind of cartoonish, they're so larger than life. So I was very familiar with that world and time and place, but in terms of my own approach, being like a suburbanite from Dublin with a lot of nervous energy. It was a very different kind of physicality I tried to embrace with Joe. And I was kind of applying my usual method, which is a lot of reading and research. But actually, when I met Anna, pretty much from day one, and we had this discussion and chat, which she has just shared with you, that was enough to convince me that her ways were right, and this was the way in. So I too embraced that non-method and was just willing to go with it and to really be as present as possible and to listen. And that's exactly what Joe and Kay do. It's how they live their lives. And I think as artists, they are, as you said, Anna, they're non-judgmental. They observe, and then that comes through in their work. So it was like, as we once said, and it was like going on a retreat for me playing Joe. And suddenly I was in this incredibly beautiful environment with, really warm people playing very likable characters and trying to slow down my own energy levels to meet those of a writer in rural Ireland. So it was an incredible experience to be able to inhabit that place for a while,
And in terms of the takeaways for the audience, I guess they're having that same experience. You just feel like, settling in to watch it, everything just calms down. And, in our modern world, which is so, fast paced, and social media and, smartphones, and just even the fact that their way of life is very much dictated by that lack of technology. People have to come to the house to see you, to speak to you, because they can't just pick up the phone. And people are so much more present, because they don't have all that distraction. So there's almost kind of like a bit of a homage or an ode to the ways of the past, and perhaps make people want to put their phone down and be a bit more in the moment. I don't know. It's quite kind of inspirational, or at least, very nostalgic in that way.
Yeah, maybe because for me, it's a lot about what you just said. I think we are so longing for connection. Every human does, this is what we want. We want connection, and we try out all different kinds of funny things and technologies, and they can be amazing, but they also cannot. So I think what's in the movie, it's really like, to me, it's a sense of belonging. So they're different characters with different, do you say viewpoints, points of view, opinions? But they kind of, to me, it feels they all have a real sense of belonging to life and to one another and to community. And maybe also just when you just said it, I was never really thinking on that intensely, but now that you say it, I think it's also something that draw me into it, because I think real connection, and it's also connected to what I said about listening. I think real connection is just possible if you really listen without preconceptions, without wanting to ensure the other person that your opinion is right, or what is right and what is wrong. And especially nowadays, where everybody has really strong opinions. And I think strong opinions can be good, but they're pretty dangerous if we lack the willingness to listen, and to listen without judgment. And this is what I like when I saw the movie the first time. What I really liked, how it unfolded, that these different characters have such a bond with different backgrounds and maybe different opinions, but they still talk to one another or hang around with one another. And I also think this is what community, or maybe also in my romantic view, what community is about, that we can coexist in a crazy world, with different people and different fears and whatever that means. And I think, yeah, it's a really beautiful portrait what we can inhibit as humans, Maybe we forgot a bit about that.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And in our desperation and need to communicate, we've developed all of these devices that make communication quicker, but less together, and it's leading to really dangerous entrenchments on both sides, and divides conversely. But also, yeah, but in terms of the film, I think that's also why it has to be seen in the cinema, because you won't be able to sit and scroll and make tea and read the bloody latest war reports. You're locked into a dark room, and you're kind of put in a position where it's easier for it to work its magic on you and to kind of wash over you. Yeah, that's where it's designed to be seen and watched, I think. One critic, we're at Rumble Report, where the reviewer said it feels as if it's designed to slow down your pulse rate, which I thought was nice.
Mm-hmm. And we all need a bit of that. And just very quickly, in terms of what you might be working on next, I was actually thinking, Barry, I saw your film Sunlight, was that last year? And I thought this could not have been a more different role in terms of the kinetic energy that he had. But yeah, moving from that to this, and what you might be working on next.
I just wrapped on a little Welsh movie, contemporary fishing community, and I'm going on to a Czech film, playing fathers to teenagers.
Very fun. And for you, Anna?
I mean, just recently one movie came out, and it's called Sterben in German. It's the translation is dying. So that was also a big contrast. I think I did it, I don't know how much time it was in between, but it's a very existentialist movie. So it will be, I don't know, is it released already, or it will be released by the end of this month? I think it will be released. I'm not sure, but I think, yeah, that's the thing that just came out. And the other thing is a crime series, a small one, which was also pretty dark, actually.
I can't wait to see those as well. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really hope everyone takes your advice and goes to see it in the cinema to get the full immersive experience. So nice to chat to you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your questions.
Bye.